Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well, and I decided to give you what you want. Your wish is my command. So here we go. Here is a tutorial. Well, it's not really a tutorial because some of the process is just really intuitive and it's kind of just paint what you feel like, but I'll try to break down the process for you so you can, you can have like a starting point or some stages to follow. So I did speed this up because I didn't want it to be super long, and this is, I hope this will be part one, meaning I hope there will be part two, because this video ends at the finishing the smaller version of my abstract. So if you watched my studio chat, I kind of show you the different stages, and here I recreated it for you. So I really wanted my focal point to be a hibiscus flower. Hibiscus flowers are one of my favorites. We have a few bushes in my garden in that magical color, that radiant orchid kind of color, that pinkish violet elusive shade that I'm always looking for. And yeah, I really like that flower. So I wanted that to be my focal point, and I'll get to what I'm doing in a second. The thing that I've realized, I have been struggling for the longest time with, I sit down, what do I want to paint? I never felt particularly passionate about landscapes, portraits, traditional florals, still life, floral bouquets, all those things. And one day I just told myself, and that day was very recent, so I don't know where this will be how I'll think about all of this in the long run. I don't have to paint all of these things. I don't have to. I can only paint what I want, what I love, what I enjoy, take the parts that I like and throw the other stuff away until, the day comes where maybe I'm more interested in it. So I do love painting florals, but I always then struggle with like what kind of composition, and you need the leaves and not just the, flowers themselves. Well, you don't. If you don't want to paint leaves, if you don't like the color green, if you don't want to paint a vase, you don't have to. And there is such freedom in realizing this. So the first stage that I'm trying to have a more organized process so that I don't end up just filling pages with blobs of paint, which is sometimes really fun and it's a really nice warm-up, but sometimes I just find myself really frustrated when all I have to show for are just papers and papers of nothing. So yeah, sometimes, some days you just need to put some paint and let it flow and everything, but I can't just be there, because then I end up not feeling like I used the very little creative time that I have properly. Anyway, so the first stage was I looked at some hibiscus images. Some are from my own photos, and then others are from photos online that are free for commercial use. You can go to Pixabay, that's what I use, and search for photos that are free to use, and you can use them as reference or whatever. So that's what I did. And I started with some very simple pencil sketches. And for that, I used that cute Fabriano Artistico journal that I showed you at the beginning. Please don't go out and buy that. It's really, really cute. But yeah, it's just sketching, like a sketchbook is what I want to say. Okay, so the next step was, that was the previous page, was to find my color jam, my color scheme. Mostly the point was to decide which color is going to be the main color of my flowers. And I decided to go with, shocker, Cobalt Violet. My favorite is from Winsor Newton. And I just added a bunch of colors to see how I feel about them with my Cobalt Violet. Now here I'm moving on to the second page, which I divided to two areas that have kind of an orientation that I like to work with. I prefer a portrait orientation of my paper, it seems, for these at the moment. So I just divided it to two parts. And on the top one, I thought, okay, maybe I should do like a really, really huge oversized flower. And I did not really like that. So on the second one, I decided to start a bit smaller. This is where things start to get complicated. I don't know, not complicated, but it's always, what should I do next? And you don't want to rush it. I think probably I've rushed it too many times in the past because you just want to get on with it already and you're not sure what to do. So you just do something. And many times it's not the right thing because you didn't take the time to really pick that color that sings to you. That has been my experience, and I'm really trying to kind of almost reprogram my process to really, really slow down and kind of hone, is that a word? Just find what really, really speaks to me and not necessarily what I have seen other people do or kind of the traditional choices would be. So here I decided to add another little, let's call these hibiscus. They're very, very abstract versions of them, or very simplified. I decided to add one at the bottom, and I was then a little bit stuck. So I went in with my pencil, and I've decided for now that I really prefer to add these like sketchy lines with a pencil that is not water reactive, because then things get muddy. And right now I really want my colors to be vibrant, and I don't want to kind of muddy them up with a pencil. So I'll write all the products that I've used below. So after I went in with a pencil, I wasn't sure what to do. So I brought in a couple of the smaller versions, just, playtime, that I showed you in the studio chat. And I was just looking to see what I liked about them and what worked for me. And one of the things that I liked was the bright rose next to my Cobalt Violet. In those other ones, the bright rose actually had a more main role, and I had less of the Cobalt Violet, but so here I switched the ratios, but I still really, really like them next to each other. Next color I really enjoy adding to the ones I already have is yellow. My favorite two yellows are Naples yellow and Nickle yellow. That's what I'm playing with right now, and also just adding a little bit of watercolor pencil scribbles in yellow, which is one of the things that I thought really, really worked here, and it was just like half experimenting. I also added a little bit of lavender. You can see on the left side of let's call it the stem of my right flower, just a little bit of lavender. I really love that color, but it is a very opaque color, so I kind of have to use it with a very light hand. Then I thought it would be a good idea to add another layer of Cobalt Violet. Cobalt Violet, I really love the Winsor and Newton version because it's quite transparent, and I feel I can build it up really nicely. It still has that transparency, but also that softness. So yeah, it works. It works well for me. Now it's time to add some darks, and where to add them. So I want to add them where they can give me kind of that maximum effect. And that in this case is kind of the focal point of this little abstract sketch. So the center of the flowers and then the area where the flower meets the stem. Those are the areas that I usually add, the most detail to, the most contrast, the most intense colors. And you will see here that all the bright, vibrant colors are concentrated in those areas mostly. So here I decided I needed something, and that something was some ultramarine blue. I haven't used actually a lot of ultramarine blue lately, which is surprising because it's one of my favorite colors, but here I felt it was really, really needed. I wanted that kind of cooler color. I don't know, I always get mixed up with the cooler color and the warmer colors, but I wanted that something that was more blue than all the kind of pinks and yellows that I have going on, because I really enjoy colors like blue, like ultramarine blue and ultramarine violet blue or cobalt violet blue. I really enjoy them as shadow colors. I feel that they give you that effect of a shadow without having to go very dark or very gray or very brown, which are all the things that I don't like. So for me, if I can get away with it, if that gives me enough darkness and contrast, I try to use shades of blue and violet and purples for my shadows. I also really, really enjoy my Van Gogh Dusk Pink. It's really affordable, and Rembrandt, which is the traditional artist grade line of talents, which also make Van Gogh, they have their own version of Dusk Pink. I guess it's even more intense. I don't know. I really love the Van Gogh version. It's muted pink with black granulation. You could probably mix your own, but I use mine now as kind of my go-to dark, and I really enjoy it. A little addition there to the top part, I just felt that I needed something there. I didn't want another flower, so I just added some lines with a pencil and then kind of gently filled them in with some of the colors that I already have in my painting. Then I added more ultramarine blue and more of the pink. I felt like I could go a bit harder on the pink there. And yeah, this was kind of, I feel like from this point on, it's more about the details. I feel I have kind of a good base of all the main elements that I want and kind of all the main colors that I want. And now it's the finicky, very small details that sometimes make a huge difference, but there's very little addition here. It's just some lines. And this was really fun. I wanted a darker violet. So instead of introducing a new color, I mixed bright rose with ultramarine blue. And that gave me a more intense, still granulating, because ultramarine blue is a granulating color, and I think also the bright rose is, and I think so. It's not as granulating, but it is a little bit. So I mixed those two to get a really nice shade of violet, and that gave me a little bit of a darker shade with more contrast to, just get that extra detail and contrast there, because there's only so much that the cobalt violet can do for me. Even at its most intense version, it's not super dark. So just pumping up the violet a little bit there. And this is pretty much it. The very last things that I did, I went in with some pencils, some watercolor pencils, and then also some pastel pencils. Are they? Is that how they're called? I'll list all the products below. And also added some sort of highlights with Naples yellow, because I just really love Naples yellow and cobalt violet together. Now I realize this video went kind of fast. I guess I didn't want it to be too boring, but please feel free to slow it down. You can do that on YouTube. You know, you can speed up boring videos and slow down videos that are too fast, and you know, you can follow along my process. But a lot of it is really trying to understand which colors you love and what works for you. And yeah, just realizing you can do whatever you want. You don't have to follow the traditional way of doing something. And I'm really happy with this one. So I made this small sketch or study or whatever you want to call it, version of this. And the next step would be to go larger. What I did with my previous series, let's say, of abstracts is I just went a little bit bigger. I didn't go straight to the kind of largest sheets that I have, which are quarter imperial size. So I think I'll do that again. And, you know, you can work with the things that worked and emphasize the things that you love. And there's a lot of good stuff here. And there are some things that I might consider tweaking. For example, the background colors or those neutrals that are in the, you know, areas that are not full of color. I don't know. I think I have to work on them. Maybe just figure out a better color, maybe leave them whiter because there's so much color here. I really love the addition of the yellow watercolor pencil in certain areas. It really brightens things up and is easier to do in a, you know, smaller area than with watercolor, I felt. And that's it. So I had fun. I hope you did also. I'll see you soon in another video. Bye.